To Pakistan, the country's economy is in a dire state. Rating agency Fitch has downgraded Pakistan's currency issuer default rating to CCC negative from CCC positive. This while the parliament has called a session as it desperately needs to secure the IMF bailout. Also, Pakistan's former finance minister Shaukat Tareen, who allegedly lobbied against it. He has been charged with sedition at the moment. Islamabad is rushing to expedite the passage of fiscal measures mandated by the International Monetary Fund for securing the $1.4 billion bailout. A report claims that Finance Minister met with Pakistan President on Tuesday for signing the tax amendment bill. The draft bill seeks to raise 170 billion Pakistani rupees or over $635 million by raising taxes and is a part of IMF's mandated conditions. But the President refused to sign the ordinance and he has advised the Finance Minister to take the Parliament into confidence over it. Now, as the Parliament deliberates on this, Pakistan's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating has been downgraded by Fitch. This rating signifies a country's ability to repay the foreign currency which it has borrowed. Fitch ratings have marked Pakistan at CCC minus in this rating. This is a further fall from the CCC plus where it was marked earlier. The grade means that a default or debt restructuring is an increasingly real possibility for Pakistan. The grade means that default or debt restructuring, like I mentioned, is an increasingly real possibility. This grade also indicates possibility of a further sharp worsening in external liquidity and funding conditions, as well as a decline of foreign exchange reserves to critically low levels. Meanwhile, according to reports in Pakistan media, the country's cybercrime unit registered an FIR against former Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen. He was booked under sedition for allegedly stalling talks with the IMF. According to a report, the FIR states Tareen, with malafide intentions and ulterior motives, induced sitting provisional finance ministers to sabotage the IMF program. Pakistan's economy is going through its worst phase. The amount of foreign reserves the country has is barely sufficient to last for a few weeks. For more on this, we're now being joined by our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik from Islamabad. Hi Anas, I want to first start by asking you that the Pakistani president has reportedly refused to clear the ordinance. Is the government prepared to deal with the situation at the moment?
Well, the optics of it are certainly bad for the government for one very reason. The president has rejected or has said that he will not be signing the ordinance despite the fact that he had met the finance minister just yesterday. While you rightly mentioned that the IMF negotiations are underway, this would be seen as a move on the part of the government, as a confidence-building measure or a trust-building measure to signal to the IMF that they are serious in implementing whatever that they have committed to the IMF, and especially with regards to those higher rates of the budget, new taxes that are being done. This finance bill or this taxation bill that is to be introduced today at the parliament or implemented through the parliament would basically mean that 170 billion rupees worth of taxes would be collected additionally just in the span of about 5 months until the new budget is tabled. That is number one. And number two, it is also signaling adhering to the IMF demands. So while politically this would be what we say is a suicide and it would result in inflation getting more and more and even more higher, but the PMLN and the allied government, the incumbent allied government would want to give this semblance that they're doing it in order to save the country, because it was imperative to do so because the country is on the verge of an economic collapse.
Right, Anas. Now, the former finance minister, Shaukat Tareen, has been booked for allegedly stalling IMF talks. How serious are the charges against him?
Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen whose call had been leaked, where he had tried to sabotage the IMF deal as well. This is about 3 to 4 months back, but he's now been booked. And as per the Interior Minister, the nod for his arrest has also been given to the FIA. The charge is serious, but it is, in the longer run, it will be bailable, because the intent would definitely be asked, and that is what, under the premise under which he will be questioned. But the move will be seen largely as a politically motivated move, as it might be, as it might come across, though the incumbent government would want to give a semblance that this has nothing to do with political victimization, but rather the law taking the course on its own hand. Now, on the second part of your question, with the president's refusal, the government did have a backup plan. They've already approved the financial bill through the cabinet in a cabinet meeting that was held yesterday, and today now they're tabling it before the parliament to have it as an act of parliament, so that it cannot be struck down by the president, because then the president, in case if this is an act of parliament and ratified by the parliament, then the president is bound and obliged to do so.
Thank you, Anas, for getting us up to speed on that. We'll of course be tracking this very closely. Thanks very much.